Welcome back. And just as soon as I stopped the last video, I realized that I forgot about Pythagorean Theorem. And that's a triangle thing, so I should have included it in the last video, but it may be a blessing in disguise because this one may get a little bit long too. So we're on the geometry course. We're still in polygons, closed figures, and I'm sorry to flip through. Next time I'll just skip directly forward. But we need to do this page. This is a Pythagorean Theorem page. And I want you to know that Pythagorean Theorem only works with right triangles. So if you don't have a right angle in your problem, you cannot use this formula. And let me break down the spelling for you also. Now, I'm not an English teacher, so I may not have this written correctly phonetically, but thag, it's actually very close to what it actually looks like. Pythagorean. This is sometimes called the Pythagorean relationship. I learned it as theorem. So basically that means the Pythagorean rule. That's another way that you could say it. This was named for a Greek man named Pythagoras, who did a lot of great things. But one of the things he figured out was this concept of right triangles. And I'm giving you a very practical example to start with. And I left you some space over here to draw with me. Sometimes drawing these things helps you tremendously. Okay, let me read the problem first. It says, to get to work, I drive 4 miles south, turn left, and travel 3 miles. And I should have said 3 more miles. How far did I drive? And can you see a shorter way? So let me zoom in and we'll draw this picture. So let's put a point down here for my house, and I'm going to call that H. So it says that I drive south for 4 miles. 1, 2, 3, 4. South is down. And then I turn left, and so I should have worded this a little differently. I'm thinking as I'm driving, I turn left, and I go 3 more miles. So I'm going to go there, and I stop at that point, and I am at work. So I drove 4 miles, I turned left, and I went 3 more miles. So the first question is, how far did I drive? And you can even put the intersection where I turned in if you want to. Hopefully you can see that I drove how many miles? 7. 4 plus 3. How many miles did I drive? I drove 7 miles. Okay, so that first question is answered. Do you see a better way? Is there another way that I could get from home to work? Well, sure there is. Assuming there's nothing in the way, I could just drive in a straight line. And that's what Pythagoras observed. He observed this fact. The shortest distance I'm not going to have room to fit this in. So the shortest distance between 2 points is always a straight line. And there's a name for this straight line that I'm going to highlight in blue. You need to know this name. It's a big fancy word. It's called the hypotenuse. Hypotenuse. And the hypotenuse in a right triangle is always across from the right angle. If you picture the right angle as an arrow, it's pointing to the hypotenuse. Okay, and this is why it only works with right triangles. So let me zoom in there. The hypotenuse is the shortest distance between those 2 points. So we need to be able to find the measure of the hypotenuse. How much is the hypotenuse in this problem? Well, we know it has to be less than 7 because Pythagoras told us that the shortest distance is a straight line. And if I drive the yellow route, I'm at 7. So it has to be less than 7. It also needs to be bigger than 3 or 4 because if you look at that blue line, it's bigger than either of the yellow lines. So I know it has to be bigger than 4 and it has to be less than 7. That narrows the field a little bit, but I need a formula. And this is the Pythagorean Theorem. This is the way this works. The formula is a squared plus b squared equals c squared, where a and b are the legs of your triangle, the yellow lines, and c is the hypotenuse. And this is what Pythagoras taught us, that a plus b equals c, all of them to the second power. So let me show you how Pythagoras' formula works in this problem. Go ahead and get a mental image of what you think this answer is going to be. The blue line is how many miles? Okay, so Pythagoras says if you take the legs of the triangle and square them, that will end up being the hypotenuse squared. So the legs of this triangle are, we don't know the hypotenuse, so I'm going to leave the c alone. By the way, hypotenuse is always c. That will never change. A and B, it doesn't matter. You can use 4 and 3 or 3 and 4. The order doesn't matter. I tend to think of the 3 as the base and the A is the tall part. But again, it really does not matter. So here is Pythagoras' formula with that particular example. So 4 times 4, or 4 to the second power, is 16. And 3 times 3 is 9. And I'll tell you what, some of you haven't had the algebra course, so let me break this down. 4 times 4 is 16. And 3 times 3 is 9. And we're supposed to add those to get c squared. So 16 plus 9, that's 25, equals c squared. And you may be thinking there is no way that's 25 miles. And you're right. This is c to the second power. So we need to take the square root of those. And this is in the calculator portion, so I'm not going to spend time here. The square root of 25 is 5 miles. So the blue route for my trip to work would only be 5 miles. So I could save 2 miles a day by taking the hypotenuse, assuming there's no mountain there or something in the way. That is a much shorter route than the yellow route. And you may have heard the expression, as the crow flies. Think about if you were a bird. Would you follow the yellow route or the blue route? The blue route is as the crow flies. You're going to go directly from one point to the other. So this is called the Pythagorean Theorem. The actual theorem is this formula. So that is Pythagoras' rule. And let's try a couple of more examples. Okay, on this one, I want you to find hypotenuse. And I am going to use my little points here too. And you may be thinking, well, she didn't give me any numbers. And I didn't. I will tell you that we're looking for hypotenuse. And I know this is hypotenuse because it's across from the right angle. Here's the angle. Hypotenuse is across from that. So how can I find the numbers that I need? Because this is graph paper, we can count them. So here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 units. And here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 units. And those are the legs. The legs are hooked to the right angle. So those are the legs of the triangle, and this is hypotenuse. And that's what we're looking for in this problem. So we need to start with Pythagoras' formula, which is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And remember, hypotenuse is always c. So the legs are going to be the yellow marks. And again, it doesn't matter which you use in the pockets. To me, the A is the tall one and the B is the base, whatever that is. But you can reverse those. And this is 8 times 8, which is 64. And this is 6 times 6, which is 36. And you add those together to get c squared. So 64 plus 36 is 100. Now I know there aren't 100 boxes there because this is c squared. We have to take the square root to get 1c, and the square root of 100 is 10. So the hypotenuse for this triangle is 10 units. Okay, what if you're missing a leg? That sounds a little funny, doesn't it? Find a missing leg. I should have said a missing leg of a triangle. I did not mean anything untoward there. So let's look at this picture. And I know that this is hypotenuse, which means this is a leg and this is a leg. Okay, so we're looking at, if you want to see the vertices points, that's fine. We have to have this right angle to be able to use Pythagoras' rule. If you don't have the right angle, this will not work. So I know hypotenuse, and we know that's always the letter C. And I'm just going to let this be B. It could be A, it doesn't matter. It just has to be one of the legs. So let's do this problem. I have a squared plus b squared equals c squared. That's Pythagoras' recipe for solving this problem. We don't know A, but I am letting B be the 24. And C this time we do know. That's 40. So we have a little bit of a different formula here. And let me zoom in and we'll finish this one. So the first thing I need to do is 24 times itself. And I have no idea what that is. 576. And then 40 times itself is 1600, I do believe. Be careful, because you've got an equal sign there. Here's the addition sign. So we are going to have to use some algebra. And again, if you've not had the algebra course, this is probably not going to make a lot of sense. But we're going to move that constant over to the constant side and cancel. So we're left with a squared equals 1600 subtract 576 is 1024. And then we have to take the square root of 1024. So just hit Shift X2, and your other leg on this triangle is 32 feet. So those are examples of the Pythagorean theorem problems that you could see on the test. I think if you can do those, you should be okay. I can't anticipate anything other than those two. But they're not easy. They take a lot of practice. Okay, I'm going to stop this video. I'm going to see, oh, no, we have more and more problems, so I'm going to let it go. This one is a more complicated problem, and they want me to find the area of this triangle. So let's take a look here before we get started at the things we do know and the things we don't know. I'm going to put in my vertex points just because I like those. I know if this line is 30 feet in this model, that this one would also be 30 feet. I can look at those and tell that they are congruent, so you can fill that in. I need to find the height, so I'm going to count boxes. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Let's call it 15. It's close enough. It's a little bit off. I meant to put this in, actually. I didn't intend to have you count that, but I forgot. So if all else fails and you can, just count your height up. And then the one other question I would ask you is, what's the base of this triangle? And this is what gets most people. If they're going to be caught, this is where it will catch them. The base is this entire line. So we have to realize that it's not 18 feet. It's actually 18 feet plus 18 feet. So you have to do what to those 18s? You can add them or you can multiply them. But either way you do it, your base is 36 feet. And I think I just messed up. I did just mess up. Why can I not